King, Black Police Union in St. Louis releases scathing evaluation of their own department, call for the resignation of Police Chief Sam Dotson. Few people know that all over this country, many police departments have two separate police unions, one for white officers and one for black officers. Street. Louis is one of those cities with segregated police unions where African American officers felt like they had to form their own separate organization in order for their concerns and needs to be addressed. It's despicable that this is still the case in 2016, but it is very real. Even the name of the African American Police Union in St. Louis, the Ethical Society of Police, clues us into the fact that they felt like their white counterparts in law enforcement often lacked the basic integrity required of the job. On Thursday, in a Daily News exclusive, the Ethical Society of Police has released a scathing, comprehensive 112-page evaluation of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. At a scheduled forum Thursday evening, black police officers from the Ethical Society of Police told the news that they plan to publicly call for the immediate resignation of Police Chief Sam Dotson based on the damning findings of their report, which is embedded below. It goes into painstaking and meticulous lengths to detail 360 degrees of racism, discrimination, cronyism and even crime within the department. The union had previously given Dotson a vote of no confidence, but this is the first time they have called outright for his termination. SGT. Heather Taylor, president of the Ethical Society of Police, said, "Chief Doyle Samuel Dotson needs to resign effective immediately. He has used his position to bully and intimidate officers, with fear of retaliation when they voice their opinions about his ineffective practices. He will never be able to improve morale. His policies have done irreversible damage to SLMPD and have divided our department and community along racial lines. His practices with how he treats the poor, homeless, and minority communities versus how he treats crime in predominantly white communities throughout St. Louis is biased." Dotson did not immediately return the request for comment. Part I of the report, which begins on page 3, begins with what the union feels is the root of many of the problems in the department: discriminatory hiring and promotion practices which routinely elevate comparably qualified, and even less qualified white officers over black officers and recruits. The higher up you go in the department, the report details, the wider and whiter it gets. Part I of the report, which begins on page 43, details critical flaws in how the department views crime in the city, approaches staffing for specialized teams, and has failed to address root problems. Part I of the report, which begins on page 56, is perhaps the most damning. It details how white officers within the department who have been accused of murder and other crimes have been given better and more preferential treatment than black officers accused of relatively petty offenses. Nothing, though, is as shocking to the conscience as what begins on page 66 and continues for nearly 40 pages as the Ethical Society of Police details example after example of white officers who were given often outrageously preferential treatment by the department when they faced violations compared to their African American counterparts. White officers accused of heinous murders were often given the deferential respect of kings, while African American officers were routinely railroaded publicly and privately by the department. The report, which should be evaluated by media outlets and concerned citizens everywhere, is perhaps even more damning than reports like this we see sometimes written by the Department of Justice. Those officials are outside evaluators. This report was written by sworn officers who are currently employed within the very department they are criticizing. It not only took an amazing of courage for them to do this, but it shows just how dedicated they are to making this police department the best it can be. All week, I've seen people ask when good police officers would stand up against injustice. The black police officers in St. Louis, in this report, are doing just that. See the full report below.